Did you know over 60% of first-time clients do not return for a second visit? That is so painful, but it doesn't have to be that way. That's where Maya comes in. Maya is the ultimate marketing software for the beauty and wellness industry. We have a proprietary funnel utilizing special algorithms to help connect the right consumers with the right providers at your business. This means that Maya helps you get higher spending clients you love to work with who stay the long haul. If you want to increase your revenue, increase your client count, increase your average ticket, and increase your new client retention, then you need Maya. Go to joinmaya.com to set up your own personal virtual tour and see why over 500,000 consumers have trusted Maya and the businesses we work with to find their perfect beauty and wellness pro. We promise you will love Maya.
Thank you for joining me. This is Kati Whitledge with the Beyond the Technique podcast. Today, we're talking about the 10 traits of overbearing leaders. Ooh. Well, this could be reflected in other relationships outside of salon and spa owners or leaders. So let's dive in, shall we? I'm going to just share all 10 traits and then we're going to go through each very quickly because you know what? It's Thursday and Thursdays are short mini episode day together. So 10 traits of overbearing leaders. We have excessive control, constant criticism, interrupting frequently, micromanaging, ignoring boundaries, always needing to be right, over involvement, excessive monitoring, guilt tripping, and a lack of empathy. So let me just start with, look, we're all guilty of being overbearing at times. It doesn't matter if it's with our mom or dad or our siblings, our significant others, our team members, our kids, or the people that you oversee. We all can lean into being overbearing at times. This doesn't mean you are toxic. We all have this struggle once in a while. If it's ongoing, yeah, this becomes toxic. So this is just a call for everybody to recognize, this may be an area. I'm going to actually share there is one of these areas that I personally struggle with. And I'm overbearing in this particular area. So we're going to dive in. First off, excessive control. You are overbearing if you need or want excessive control. If you feel the need to dictate every detail, and it comes at the expense of other people's creativity and trust. So an example might be when an owner requires a stylist to follow their exact blow drying technique, even when the client is happy with the stylist's own method. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. This is the same thing that my piano teacher was thinking. I was classically trained by Dr. Stephen Cushman, and in the moment, as a young, wild pastor's kid, teenager, I didn't appreciate the presence I was in. And I didn't show the respect. I was respectful, but I didn't show the respect in doing it his way, which his way was literally, Kati, play it like it's written. The sheet music is what we're working on. This is classically trained piano. You can make it your own way once you learn my way. So I don't want to discount that there are proper ways of going about certain things. Now, we're in a very creative setting, so sometimes the way you believe a blowout should be accomplished may not be the way that the other elite owner at this salon in this whole other city believes it should be executed. So keeping an eye on when is it becoming a little overbearing? When do you say you are good enough to begin at this protege or level 1 or junior level to continue to work on your craft without making it a defeating excessive control issue? So that's the number one. Number two is constant criticism. when you focus on flaws instead of encouragement, really leaving not a lot of room for growth. So I think there is always a time and place to reflect on, hey, what could have been better? What could we work on? But the praise should far outweigh criticism. If criticism just is always there, it can start to feel like you're good, but you're never good enough. So maybe you are showing your owner, or imagine a stylist showing you as an owner or leader how awesome you feel about the color placement you just did on this mannequin head or a model or a client. And you can tell this person's lit up about it. They're so proud of themselves. And are like, well, the foils weren't folded perfectly. And that again can be really defeating. So it's kind of like a parenting rule of like praise what you want to continue to see what happen. And I often, if I notice something in my child that wasn't to my kind of expectation of how I wish they would perform, let's talk sports for a second. I'll just say, "Hey, buddy, is there anything that you personally want to work on or get better at?" And I'll never forget. And I was watching a soccer game, and my son just wasn't aggressive enough, and it was driving me crazy. But instead of saying, "Hey, you did great at this and this, I wish you'd be more aggressive in these situations," instead of calling him out and saying you weren't aggressive, I'd say, "How do you feel like you did? Awesome. Is there anything you're working on to get better at?" And out of nowhere, he goes, "Yeah, I want to work on being the goalie." And he wasn't playing goalie at all. Like he's never been put in for goalie. And it was just funny to me, like, all right, buddy, you work on that, time and place to critique. So keep an eye on if it's just constant. Like there are times that you can save those moments of correction because the overall theme of what you're noticing in that person is so positive and there's been progress. Number 3, interrupting frequently. Now, this to some people, they may think, oh, okay, sometimes I do this. I probably do this once in a while. Really, it's a lack of being a good listener. I get very excited. Ooh, you just said something. I don't want to forget this cool thing I need to say. So I got to work on that. But what this really means is like cutting people off. So I don't, you've all watched me do the podcast with guests. I don't believe I struggle with cutting people off. So if you have leaders that are overbearing in this area, it means they may literally cut people off mid sentence, which honestly just tells whoever it is you're in a conversation with that you don't actually respect what they have to say. So if you're in a meeting and you're interrupting somebody like mid idea, especially in a way that's correcting them or calling them out like negatively in front of others, like this is a big, big thing to work on. This is a huge overbearing issue of interrupting in a negative way. Micromanaging. Whoa. Have you ever been micromanaged? What did it feel like? It felt like you are kind of walking on eggshells. And don't you end up making more mistakes? I feel like I have been in that situation where I've been micromanaged and then I end up making more mistakes. Or if you're nervous around talking around people who are, you feel perfectionist and kind of keeping an eye on you, you tend to have your worst conversations with them. So, really, micromanaging is when you don't trust others to work independently, maybe think independently, perform independently. You got to be around, you got to keep an eye, you got to oversee. You're kind of a hovering person. Sometimes there's hovering parents, helicopter parents. That's not me. Um, I sometimes come in late and try to see where we're at, and it could maybe throw a little micromanaging feels into the vibe. But overall, I don't think that is my personal struggle. But I've been micromanaged, and it's something to keep an eye on. So if you're checking on the front desk consistently, or your manager, or where we at, let me see, show me every step. It just is shouting like, hey, kind of don't trust you. And we want to build trust. That's the foundation for a great relationship. The next overbearing trait is ignoring boundaries. I think that this is one that probably we're all a little guilty of because of the relationship aspect of the industry we're in. So, this is when you push past limits, disregarding personal space. So an example of this might be texting a team member off hours. That is a challenge. I mean, and we're kind of used to this in a way where like, hey, you looked awesome today. Oh my gosh, I just saw your new pictures or your engagement photos. Or there are moments that we do this where it's safe that it's after hours. So be mindful or tactful about when would this particular conversation feel like an invasion of like my boundaries, and be conscientious of that. The always needing to be right. Okay. If you are overbearing, if you always need to be right. So if you're dominating conversations and really just refuse to consider the perspectives of others, this is a problem. So I often will say, hey, here's where my head is at. What do you think? So they kind of know a little bit of where, my focus might be or the direction I might want to take, but it doesn't matter what I want. If the team and collective doesn't come to the answer, then we don't have buy-in collectively in the whole organization. So it's so important that you let go of this need to be right. Now, in marriage, I was once asked, Katie, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And I said, I want to be both. But that is not the right answer. You cannot focus on being right. It's not about winning the argument. Okay. It is about creating a positive collaborative space. So, let's say a stylist is like, I want to set up our retail merchandising in a new way, but you're like, well, I've been merchandising for over 10 years, and I'm going to tell you right now that that idea won't work. Whoa, chill out. That is like the devil wears Prada. Okay, let's give it a shot and we'll track how sales go and how much traffic comes up to the space. You got to let your people have an opportunity without taking a little pee on their good idea right from the jump. Okay, you get what I mean. Number 7, an overbearing leader can be overly involved. Now, I'm also going to call this adding too much value, which is literally my number one issue. So, this is when a leader will insert themselves into situations that don't actually require their presence or a need for them. I have this insecurity as a leader that because I have multiple businesses, not every single thing can have my 100% engagement attention. I'm not going to own the departments in every single organization. So when I do come in and hear about a project or a task or any type of campaign, what do I tend to do? I tend to add way too much value to the conversation, to the point where it actually might make people feel like, great, now we got to start back at square one. I thought we had this all figured out until Katie heard about it. Now she's got a whole new perspective, and now we got to start over, rethink everything. That's over involvement, or what I would consider adding too much value. Sometimes it's okay. Like, don't be insecure. It's okay that you aren't taking other people's ideas and making them 10 times better. You don't need to do that to prove that you bring something valuable and life giving to the organization. In fact, more so supporting them and encouraging them and empowering them and equipping them to do what they do best is the thing that makes you valuable to your team. So I hope that encourages you. It's been an area for me that I've struggled with. Excessive monitoring. You are overbearing if you're over the top in how you monitor. If you're keeping close tabs on your team, it can feel really invasive. One example is if you're constantly checking like the books and you say to your stylist, why was this moved? Or front desk, what happened with, I mean, like every little thing is like, whoa, you are monitoring way too much. We got it. This is okay. Most of what I'm bringing up, aren't you seeing though, that this is tied to trust or this need to feel recognized or validated or valued, right? So you got to trust your team. It's got to be the foundation of the relationship that you have. There is no need to be excessive in monitoring. You either trust your person or you really don't. And if you don't, that's a whole different conversation, a whole different podcast title. Number 9, guilt tripping. So using shame to control decisions or gain compliance. So this example might be a leader who does all the scheduling says, like, if you don't work this extra shift, you're really not showing the team that you care. We're a salon family. Like, if you really respect, care, and whatever, then you will fulfill this extra shift or you'll be in this slot. Like, please consider. So it can be framed like kind of manipulative. Keep an eye on that. Keep an eye that we're not guilting people into certain things. Now, by the way, I said every single person listening to this is guilty of every single one of these overbearing traits at some point with somebody in their life. So nobody's exempt. You're not exempt, and neither is anybody else that you oversee. But just keep an eye that it doesn't become a habit, because that is what makes this very toxic. I've probably been guilty at this at some point, like, man, really wish that you could do this. You're the one I da da da. And at times that is putting this sense of like, oh, I feel guilty if I don't do it. So we're not perfect, but keep an eye that this doesn't become habitual. And then number 10, lack of empathy. So lecturing instead of listening, assuming that you always know best, and really just it doesn't matter like how you feel, because this is the right way. If that's your perspective, that is a lack of empathy and understanding for what where other people might be at, where their head is at with things. If you don't have buy-in, you won't have their best performance, the best productivity. You won't get the best of them if they're not bought in. And so if you feel like you know best, it's your way, or what are we doing here? Prove it to me before I listen to you. If it's the mentality you struggle with, it is very defeating, and it really is not an inspirational trait that is going to draw people in. So keep an eye on that. One example is a stylist shares they're stressed about double booking, and you respond with this lecture on time management instead of offering support. Now, let me encourage you with something. It's not that they need to get out of double booking. What if you reframe it and say, well, okay, so we double book. What can we do to support you in this double booked service today? What can the front desk do? How can we bring somebody in to help you? What are ideas that you have that would make this easier or just less stressful for you? Now, when you ask questions that are framed with how or what, now it is the providers, they become owners. It's their way of taking accountability and taking ownership of solving that problem. And then you're there to help guide them to the answer that's best for them. But you're not letting them off the hook from a potential policy or standard that you have for your salon business. So there is a way to manage the relationship. And by the way, all of this is 100% dependent on your willingness as a leader to work on relationship management, which is emotional intelligence, my friends. So and here's the good news, it's not like your IQ, your intelligence. I still don't believe it's capped. I don't believe that's true. I think you can always grow and learn and develop yourself in any area of life that you want to dedicate time to growth. But emotional intelligence isn't just this thing you have or don't have. Like, you have to learn, you have to grow, you have to be willing to practice and work on that area of your life, which is relationship management. So I hope that today was a little bit of an eye opener for you. Next week, we're going to make it more positive in our little short. We're going to actually talk about the 10 signs of empowering leaders. So how fun will that be? Join us again next Thursday. And by the way, every single Monday, we drop a new episode with new guests. So it's our Thursday time. That's a little mini sesh between you and me. I hope you love it. Until next time, have an awesome day and stay strong.